did it again! After an insane title race, our rivals actually helped us win the league on the final day. Cheers for that, Brendan. If not for a last-minute extra time goal, we could have had a good run in the Champions League too. Both the board and the supporters are happy with our performance so far. However, they will love me once they see the transfer I just made. And I didn't even need Michael, the bloody panty sniffer, because I always check the end of contract players and Florian Wirtz is top of that list. He wants to move to a bigger club, and the only club interested is Tottenham. My scouts also reported on a very good new gen striker from Birmingham who looks very handy. And for just £10 million, I got the deal done really quickly. And on the 1st of July, Florian Wirtz also joined the club and took the number 7 shirt. The transfer window was rather quiet outside of a couple of bids for our goalkeeper. And we went straight into the Community Shield flying with 4 goals by Marcus Leonardo. But our first month of the season included 3 of the best teams in the league and Tottenham. Newcastle snuck into 2nd place last year, remember. So imagine my delight when Florian Wirtz scored just 4 minutes into his Premier League debut against them on the opening day. Fabian Ryder then dispatched 2 penalties and we made that win look so easy. Manchester City then went and signed Eze from our rivals Crystal Palace for a big fee as well for the 29-year-old. And Palace have already had a good window signing Lokonga for their midfield as well as Livramento at right back for both good value. They also took early advantage in the league, winning their first 3 matches. We, on the other hand, dropped some points to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. But of course, we beat Tottenham 1-0. It was then time for an early contender for game of the season at the Etihad when Mitoma scored in the 3rd minute. Erling Haaland then equalised in the second half and we got what we thought was the winner in the 88th minute. But we were wrong. And Erling Haaland popped up with this outrageous header in the 93rd minute. But hold on to your hats because there was time for one more roll of the dice and somehow Caicedo found McAllister and we pinch all 3 points. There hasn't been a chance to play Leon Kemp, our new wonder kid, just yet. But 11 goals he has scored for the youth team has been very promising. And after beating Leicester 4-1, we only briefly took top spot before Palace regained it once again, defeating Manchester United through Nketiah's goal. The transfer window slammed shut without us doing anything else, but big money being spent elsewhere, including Newcastle getting Yeremy Pino, which instantly makes them a threat once again this year. Not to mention Man City signed Ferran Torres for the 2nd time for 70 million. Our Champions League fixtures came through and it's starting off incredibly difficult in September with Juve and Bayern Munich, but we butt heads with Barcelona once again. People have been asking about sharing this tactic, so I have put it on my Patreon for all the members who support me there. The link is in the description if you want to sign up and all the other benefits. Anyway, as if September wasn't hard enough, we lost to West Ham in the 92nd minute, right before our Champions League match against Juventus, from which we took the lead just 19 minutes in from Florian Wirtz. Almost from Juve's kickoff, we snatched the ball and Mitoma's run was fantastic and he found Marcus Leonardo for a very fast double whammy. And the game was over in just 15 minutes later when Wirtz tapped in the rebound from Van Heck's header at the back post. And we enjoyed the same scoreline, 4 games in a row into a game against Munich. But we couldn't keep that going and we lost 1-0. October doesn't look too difficult, but what a strange month. We are still trailing Crystal Palace, by the way, in the league. We started off the month giving away a 2-goal lead against Aston Villa, ending with a draw. Former Brighton favourite Solly March, who moved to Everton in the summer when his contract ran out, set up a goal for Everton in the 91st minute against us. And that also happened to be a 2-2 equaliser. A 0-0 draw to Arsenal was swiftly followed by knocking Spurs out on penalties in the Cup. But we finally got a win in the league during this month when Marcus Leonardo scored 4 goals against Norwich in a 6-0 win, which he also did against Nice in the Champions League. But those 3 draws have seen us drop to 6 points behind Liverpool in top spot now and still behind Palace going into November. And with Liverpool at the end of the month, it was important that we started getting back into form, and against Marseille in the Champions League, I felt that to be the case. Alex Scott scored 2 fantastic goals to be fair, and somehow Marcus Leonardo was onside when he scored the 4th. Our other Champions League game didn't start great at all when we conceded in the 1st minute against Lazio. However, 2 massively informed players for us so far this season is Alex Scott and Marcus Leonardo, and they both showed up in this game to make Lazio's early smiles disappear before half-time, and we went in 3-1 up, and they came out and secured themselves a hat-trick each, with Mitoma scoring another late one for a 7-1 win. In between, we picked up 2 league wins, and now it's time to face the leaders, Liverpool. And unfortunately, our good run come to an end at home when Liverpool scored 2 goals late in the second half through Mijatovic and Kamara. And the gap extends to 9 points between us now. How will we recover from this? And December looks to be the most difficult month of the year too, with Palace up first, Barcelona in the Champions League, with United and Chelsea to play also. The derby was one of the tightest in years, but the bragging rights came home with us as Florian Wirtz picked up the only goal of the game. He was also the scorer of the opening goal in the Champions League clash against Barcelona at home, but that game was soon flipped on its head because Barcelona equalised through Ansu Fati. And they kept scoring goals, putting themselves 2-1 up early in the second half, and a minute later they were celebrating their third and all looked lost for the Seagulls. And that was until Alex Scott got a second Brighton goal and the belief was back. In the 84th minute, Marcus Leonardo was squeezed through and an equaliser was scored, before a back post header from Per Scherz in the 93rd minute stole all 3 points. And we followed that with a trip to Old Trafford a few days later when Marcus Leonardo gave us the advantage. And our Dutch centre-back in our ranks, Van Heck, popped up with a second and another 3 points was claimed in the Premier League. Unfortunately though, Newcastle knocked us out of the League Cup, but it was our only loss that month as we came away with wins against Fulham, Burnley, Forest and Wolves while drawing 2-2 with Chelsea. And we finally launched ourselves above Crystal Palace in the league and put ourselves back in the title race. Marcus Leonardo currently has 33 goals in 30 appearances so far this season, and we rewarded him with a fat new contract. Speaking of goals, backup centre-back Fonseca has scored 17 for the youth team so far, which is pretty mental. The start of the year began terribly with a loss to Everton at the Amex, but we brushed that off right away though, and January proved to be a fantastic month, especially for Marcus Leonardo. Alongside his new contract, he scored 5 goals in 3 games in the latter part of the month. We always looked comfortable, including our 2 Champions League fixtures and wins against Burnley and Newcastle. Although we have developed an 8-point gap in front of Palace, we do still chase Liverpool, but look at that Champions League group. Second with 21 points. The first team exposure for Ndiaye has been fantastic for his progress, with his attributes looking very good for a 20-year-old centre-back. As well as our Greek left-back, who has been fantastic for us this season. A trophy we are yet to win is the FA Cup, and that continues to evade us this season as Bournemouth knocked us out in the 4th round with their 93rd minute winner. With only 2 league games in February, it was important we picked up 6 points, and with the visit from Manchester United, it could have been very difficult. But then, considering how many times we have destroyed the Red Devils in recent seasons, I shouldn't have been surprised to see us come out 3-0 winners. We popped 5 past Fulham too, but our next match was Liverpool at Anfield, followed by Juventus in the Champions League. And Liverpool are coming off the back of dropping 5 points in their last 2 league fixtures. So guess who's top of the league now?
Nice.
Our Brazilian top scorer Leonardo wasn't fit enough to start, and I thought we were doomed as soon as Liverpool scored within 4 minutes and possibly in for a hammering. However, how wrong could I have been, because Arda Güler equalised from a free kick just a few minutes later. He was actually starting up front and he was put through to put us 2-1 up, and Alex Scott made it 3-1 at Anfield. Fabian Ryder shocked the world, putting us 4-1 up, but the onslaught continued and Marcus Leonardo came off the bench, and there was still time for him to score 2 more goals in 2 minutes to shock the Reds, and we walk away from Anfield 6-1 winners.
Sorry, what?
We travel to Turin to try and make it 3 away wins in a row, and João Fonseca puts us en route to do just that. And Alex Scott doubled our chances, before Marcus Leonardo appeared in the 92nd minute to score an amazing third. Shockingly, the only game we couldn't win in March was against Norwich. But how long will that last, because we have a run of fixtures in April which include 2 legs against Real Madrid, Arsenal, Palace and Manchester City. Marcus rescued a point against Arsenal as we head into the first leg of the quarterfinal of the Champions League against Real Madrid, where the only goal of the game came from the spot. From there we go and face Crystal Palace in the derby, and it's our backup right back Rosolev who gets the only goal of the game. On to the second leg against Madrid. 15 times Real Madrid have won this competition, and with the game teetering in the balance after the 1-0 win in the first leg, it was so relaxing for us when Marcus Leonardo scored 2 very early goals in the second leg of the quarterfinals, and the man even got himself a third to take the match ball home, and we are through to the semi-final. And I completely got caught off guard by our next opponents, because Liverpool lost in the round of 16 against Club Brugge, who then beat Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. So before we face those underdogs ourselves, we first beat both Brentford and Tottenham away from home, quite comfortably too. The Man City game was rescheduled for the first leg against Bruges, and it was Alex Scott who broke the deadlock just before half-time in the semi-final. Trying to stay cool in the second half when Florian Wirtz made it very difficult. We still had another leg in this tie, but we are so close to the Champions League final now. But they have got this far for a reason, and they pulled one back in the 91st minute, and we travel to Belgium. By the way, it is still Scott Parker in charge. You might be wondering why I'm showing you a 1-1 draw between Liverpool and Norwich. That is because with those points dropped, our incredible run in this league has seen us lift the Premier League trophy for the third time and in back-to-back seasons. Now, Club Brugge gave us our hardest time in the Champions League so far, but we held on for a 0-0 draw and we're in the Champions League final. And our opponents in the final is Kylian Mbappe's PSG side, who demolished Atletico Madrid 5-0 on aggregate in the semi-final. The team for the final is probably our strongest, with Marcus Leonardo leading the line, of course hoping to add on to the 54 goals he has scored so far this season. And PSG kick us off in the final at Old Trafford, in front of 75,000 fans and millions watching at home. The first half finished goalless, but when the deadlock was eventually broken, it was thanks to Jamal Musiala and his bag of tricks. It seemed to have flicked off our defender before he Cruyff flicked it into our empty net. But come off the man, come off the moment, an unlikely scorer at the best of times, Wilfried Singo shoots us back on level terms from 25 yards out with half an hour to go. But PSG piled on the pressure, and it was Kylian Mbappe who dispatched a second home for the Parisians and the final goal of the game. Absolutely gutted. No Champions League trophy this season, but yet another Premier League title, I guess. Michael was quite excited though, because there's £122 million in the budget to spend next summer.